too, and if you want to get in into our Juneteenth.
He's good
Is
at
that cool?
What are you going, Grant again or what? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. this was a couple days before.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Got it on the right! Black Lives Matter!
To one of those shouts that our squad member Hugh Perkins was calling out. First of all, Monday, June 15th. Happy Juneteenth. This is our second annual Juneteenth Ride. We will have guests on tonight from the Juneteenth of Buffalo Festival. Last year, we started with our usual annual block party with Gina Davis and the Just Breathe Block Club Association over on East Parade, right next to MLK Park. We added on the Juneteenth theme and what an incredible history, Juneteenth in America and in Buffalo. And we're going to learn a lot about that tonight. Shout out again to Independent Health, our presenting partner, for keeping the wheels rolling as we're rolling with the changes here. We're into week 7 of doing the virtual rides, and we have some guests on to be part of that, part of our Juneteenth theme. We're so grateful to Independent Health support, to Mark Odian producing tonight from Buffalo.fm, WNY Media, for allowing us to keep it going this way for now until we can get the group rides back going again, which are, I think we're coming soon. We're staying on top of things, and we don't know quite when we'll be able to bring back slow roll as we know it, but we'll work with the phases here and begin to gather people as best as we can. For now, we're sticking with the Juneteenth theme online, just as Juneteenth, the Buffalo Festival did over the weekend, with hours of live stream content, educating and gathering in the best way that we can in the moment right now. Now, we gave an introduction there. As if y'all have been tuning in before, know that we've been riding the Scajaquada, and it's pretty gray legally. We have consulted with lawyers on this. We believe that it should be a parkway, especially now more than ever, open for people to walk and ride their bikes. There should be space for that. Should be more space. We need more space for that. So we're going to keep riding it. And in that process, our man Hugh Perkins on the bullhorn has been a guest on these virtual rolls many weeks, and is certainly known by slow rollers for that bullhorn on the ride. Such part of the heart and soul of slow roll. Hugh was really itching to get out and connect and ride and spread that love that he does on the bullhorn. And of course, with what's going on recently, to add to that message and what he was saying there, I want to give a shout out to someone who's rode with us many times and someone who's in the news nationally right now. And we're actually going to make sure we end the show in time for that. Cariel Horn, who has become a household name in Buffalo, is known to many already, but certainly more so now and nationally. A fired Buffalo police officer for intervening in police brutality and losing her pension for it. That chant that Hugh had, of course, he loves to chant slow roll and all sorts of things that Hugh chants to get people going over the years. After the Charlottesville tragedy in 2017, we were looking for a messenger and to be relevant with slow roll, how to bring people together and really go in on this and understand what's going on and how we need to change. And so we called on Cariel to speak to slow roll. And she asked folks to chant along, "Love, not hate, makes America great." And that made a lot of people uncomfortable, which is interesting, isn't it? That how is that getting political? You know, we know what that means, right? We know what that refers to. But we feel comfortable saying love, not hate, right? Like, you know, it's a stance we're comfortable with, spreading love and emphasizing love and talking about the need for it and how it manifests and how it's challenged and how it's not always winning. So we stayed on that message and that Cariel gave us, and Hugh loves chanting it and we love to hear it. So I want to just mention here, as we have in past weeks, but Cariel's in the spotlight. We send her love. We would have her on the show, letting her rest her voice to get ready to be on CNN tonight at 9 o'clock on Chris Cuomo's show. So we'll make sure we end our show to turn our attention to that in time. One of the things she's going to talk about is been advocating for Cariel's Law, and Slow Roll has signed on to the coalition of Buffalo community organizations advocating not only for the passage of Cariel's Law, but also for her to get her pension. And so we've talked a little bit about her story before, but at this point it's so out there, I don't need to go all into it. I just want to emphasize the points of Cariel's Law before we get to the Juneteenth Ride, and we have a lot of great footage tonight. Section 1, duty to intervene when officers pose an imminent threat to citizens. Section 2, now this is stuff that Cariel did and got fired for. Section 2, accountability for officers neglecting to intervene. Section 3, protection for officers who intervene. Section 4, accountability for falsifying reports. Section 5, impacts policy regarding termination and department funding. Section 6, restorative justice for retaliation of whistleblowers. We thank those who reached out asking Slow Roll to be a part of that coalition. We're working not only signing on, but helping behind the scenes to get this message out, building out some of the online presence to help Cariel get justice and for the restorative justice, not only for Cariel, but our community. This is interesting how this case is being rallied around right now on a national level. It has been relevant in Buffalo, and as I expressed to Cariel when we spoke this week, that we gave her the bullhorn years ago. We could have got out there more and carried that message, and she is so grateful for all the support that she has now and the people who have known about it for a while. We're going to keep carrying it forward. We have a ride to have now. I don't want to talk all night, as I may do if they don't start the ride. So Mark, kick us into our Juneteenth ride. We started out in MLK Park. That you can have a gathering like this if you cover your nose and mouth. And we got to be really cognizant of this right now. As things are starting to open up, I'm seeing when I'm just riding my bike by myself, people now that people are gathering in restaurants and just not covering their mouths and nose. Like, we are going to have a resurgence of this pandemic if we're not smart about that. So as it pertains to Slow Roll, it's one of the reasons that we just can't have our big ride yet, is that we can't trust 1,000 people to cover their faces and ride. And we can have this is a smaller ride of a dozen or so. We have this trust amongst our squad. And that's what I'm telling them right now, that this mask is not just for me, not even really for me. It's for you. It's for us. wear my mask to protect you out of love for you. And I have become accustomed to covering my face when I'm riding because it's kind of a gesture of that love. It's an understanding of solidarity that we are intertwined in that way, that if I'm reckless by not covering my face and I get around someone, I could pass something on to them if I'm asymptomatic and don't know. I feel fine, but maybe I'm not showing it. So we got to cover up. And so that's what we're all doing here. That is just like wearing a helmet is mandatory to be on slow roll squad, riding squad. It is now covering your face is mandatory to be on these rides with us. We don't know how that's going to extend when we get to having more public rides. We're going to stay on top of that. We're going to be responsible, but I just want to give out that reminder that that this is a simple thing that we can do out of love for each other, covering our face. We got squad bandanas. I used to never wear it. I didn't think it was comfortable. I am fully accustomed to it now, out of respect and love and solidarity. So we're going to ride out from MLK Park. And our route tonight is built in recognition of Juneteenth. And Deatra Hassan will join us shortly from the Juneteenth of Buffalo Festival board. We would normally have been riding in the Juneteenth parade that ends here in MLK Park. And they did a wonderful job of bringing that online over the weekend. Tony's I think he's right now, he's going to start riding. And we'll head out on Best Street. We'll go to Jefferson Avenue, the original location of the Juneteenth Parade and Festival. And then we'll go over to the Freedom Wall. And we'll ride over to William Gator Parkway, which is named after one of the founders of the Juneteenth of Buffalo Festival. Then we'll go over to the Juneteenth of Buffalo headquarters and on to Genesee Street for the parade route to get back here to the park. So with that, I don't know if are we able to bring in Deatra yet, Mark? Silence I'll take as a no, but I hope to bring her in shortly. But the 45th annual Juneteenth of Buffalo Festival was happening over the weekend. This park would be so full of people. Really, it's the third biggest Juneteenth festival that exists anywhere. And this park would be so full. It's been an honor for us to ride in. And I will say here before we rode off too that we did ride over the weekend on Genesee Street. There was a parade of sorts. There was a Mother's March organized by Miss Betty Jean Grant and others, and we were honored to receive the call to support that. And so we rode out front, again with our masks. We rode out front of the Mother's March and blocked off the intersections and made sure that they had a smooth walk from Juneteenth headquarters down to MLK Park. And what a great gathering that was, with mothers giving their testimonies. And we will be there for them, helping them exercise their First Amendment rights and showing up. And it's a challenge right now. That's why we say we're really serious about this, about covering your face. If you're going to show up, do it carefully. We have to hold space for the fact that we are still in a pandemic, and we have to think about each other when we're out, and our healthcare workers and everybody who is the systems and the people that are stressed when the more people test positive and get hospitalized, and how that affects people's lives. So we're going to maintain being careful about that. And here we are, carefully rolling out onto Fillmore and over to Best Street. Fillmore and Best here on the edge of MLK Park. And I don't have the signal to Mark to know if Deatra can join us yet, but I'll do my best to narrate. MLK Park Casino on the right. Okay, she's not connected. I'm going to ride out. Here we are on Best Street. And we can keep that footage up there. I don't know why that came down. I think we just went past Guilford Street there, and so I'll give another shout out here. That's Science Museum on the right, and this is Herman Avenue on the left, coming out of the park. We're about to go over the Kensington, and no audio being told. Oh, well, that's nice. I don't know if anyone can hear me. Okay, good. Um, I had quite an encounter since we last gathered here. There is uh, a light projection over at Elmwood and Utica that went up with artists Idris Wajed and Keith Harrington. And I bring it up because right over here on the left, we just went past Guilford Street, Herman Street, and the encounter brought me back there. Again, here's where we left off last week. We were talking about the Restore Our Community Coalition and the work going on to restore Humboldt Parkway, to put the park back in Humboldt Parkway. So can you imagine right here when you look out, if that looked like Bidwell Parkway or Chapin or Lincoln Parkway? Well, it used to look like that. And we will stay on that subject. Now it's a highway. And if anybody is unfamiliar, we invite you to watch our live stream from last week, our Restore Our Community Ride, and where Stephanie Barber Jeter from the Restore Our Community Coalition talked about that history. But just to go back, invite everybody to go over to Elmwood and Utica, and on the side of the apartment tower there was a light projection saying Black Lives Matter, put up by artist Idris Wajed, projected by Keith Harrington. And I went down there the night it went up, and there was a guy in the window kind of looking out at me saying, and I probably wondering what the heck I was doing down there at midnight staring up at his building. And I said, can you see what's on the side of the building? Come on out. Come on out and see this. He had no idea. It had just gone up. And he came out, and his name was Mr. Leroy. And I put a Facebook live video, and I made it public at someone's request, so I think anyone can see it. But he said, just a beautiful projection. And what I said, I don't know, might be the world's tallest Black Lives Matter monument, because it's 9 floors high, projected on the side of this apartment building. And he said he was enjoying it and having kind of sharing his reaction to it. And after I ended the video, we continued to talk, and he said, I told him that I was involved with Slow Roll, and he said that he used to ride with us with his brother Craig until his brother Craig was killed. And his brother Craig lived over there, was killed there on Herman or Guilford, I believe Guilford, just a few years ago. And so we carried those folks with us. As soon as he said that, I remembered the street. I remembered Craig's face, and hadn't thought about him in a while. And we have so many people we've had involved in Slow Roll over the years, and we've talked about it in past weeks. We've lost some folks due to COVID-19. We've lost some folks due to violence over the years, and we hold space for them, and we carry them with us. So to Craig and everyone who loves him, man, you're still riding with us. So we just turned on to Jefferson. That's the old rock pile on the left, now Johnny B. Wiley Sports Complex. And we're going to get into the area of the original Juneteenth Festival. Mark, are we able to bring Deatra on yet? Oh, boy, that's too bad. Well, Mark will keep me posted if we can bring Deatra on from the Juneteenth Board of Directors. But coming up, Jefferson Avenue here, and we'll dig deeper into this, even in the absence of Deatra. It won't just be me talking. We have some great history to share in the form of a documentary that we'll show while we're showing the live ride footage. But this is coming up here toward Jefferson and Utica. This is Northampton, so shout out to the Foundry over on turning left. If you turn left here on Northampton, where Juneteenth of Buffalo began in 1976, and it outgrew, as this video will show, it outgrew Jefferson Avenue, and it wound up going from Genesee down to MLK Park. There's our first responders from the fire department. That's a nice firehouse there. So when we get here, we'll get to the heart of Juneteenth from Utica up to East Ferry. And we'll turn left on East Ferry and go to the Freedom Wall again, where one of the honorees, the 28 people immortalized on the Freedom Wall, is one of the founders of Juneteenth, William Gator. And when we get to the parkway that's named after him, we'll hear again from Mother Eva Doyle, who met us there last year. And to anyone who was tuning in a couple weeks ago, and I had that horrible audio of Mother Eva Doyle, who met us at the Freedom Wall to talk about, to reflect on where we are and the history of it. She's an educator and historian. We just had rough audio and felt so bad about it. The Juneteenth folks had some great audio with her. So there's Golden Cup Coffee on the corner, Challenger on the right, Open Buffalo, Meriwether Library on the left, Apollo Theater right there on the left, Mike's Lounge right here on the right. When you watch that old Juneteenth footage, Mike's Lounge, you can see it in the old footage too, still going strong there. Shout out to Tommy Fluker and the crew. And coming up on the right, also Jim Bell Cleaners, which was in a lot of that still since before Juneteenth started. And that is right here on the right. Zawadi Books is coming up here. And this is the heart of Jefferson. And there are so many reasons why Jefferson is not bustling as a business district like it used to. And we will stay on it. That one of them is that highway, that when you divert all this traffic off of these main thoroughfares like Jefferson and Fillmore, north-south, or Genesee, Sycamore to the east and west, that dried up a lot of the business, a lot of the traffic that would come to these businesses. But here, Dexter Pharmacy up on the right is going strong. Connected with them, that's my pharmacy, connected with them right after the shutdown happened, and they stayed open and adjusted their hours to serve the community. Doris Records on the right there, still open and going strong. We're going to turn left here onto East Ferry. We miss Gigi's up there on the left, Gigi's Soul Food. On the right is Mandela Market, that had a great gathering this past Saturday, where there was a bike ride, a first-time bike ride. Ready Bike Share was out there. We met some great folks there this weekend. Feed Buffalo was there. Mandela's Market is known for having some community events. There's the Ready Bikes are all lined up getting ready for that event. And that was a nice gathering. Feed Buffalo was among many organizations who showed up there, and our friend Art Hall, who we featured in previous videos. And with that, there's a new bike ride in town. And so we've connected with the organizer, and we're going to keep building. And he's got a shirt. It's actually, you can see in our Facebook group, Ride for Justice. And I think it actually says Bikes for Justice. And he had a great ride and was just so triumphant. It's so beautiful to see new bike rides starting. We give love to the bike gang as well. It's been going so strong in the past couple months, especially coming out of Delaware Park. We're going to keep building together. And it was coming up. We're coming toward the Freedom Wall here. That's Chester Street right there. You can turn right there. And I know a lot of y'all are missing Libby's Lemonade Stand at Slow Roll, but that's where Libby's Lemonade Stand originates. And on Saturdays, hopefully this Saturday, they'll be back set up again. We'll connect with them. They were at Miss Goody's, one of our former venues, this past weekend over on Bailey. And that's Maston Ave, Performing Arts High School on the right. And we are approaching the Freedom Wall. I'll do my best to connect here with Mark and Deatra. And when we get to the Freedom Wall, we'll stop a little and encourage everybody anytime to go visit the Freedom Wall and reflect. And for those who are unfamiliar with it, we'll be back there again for our first Monday in July. So we'll really center the ride on it. But we've been visiting it a lot lately for obvious reasons based on the headlines all around our country. So that starts with Harriet Tubman, Marcus Garvey. I can't keep up with them all, Minnie Gillette. We'll go all the way around 28 panels, 28 murals for American civil rights leaders, many of them local. And it wraps around the wall, it wraps around a corner here. This is an NFTA property. Albright Knox Art Gallery commissioned this with 4 local artists. Idris Wajet, who designed our logo, Slow Roll, as well as our neighborhoods map over my shoulder. Julia Bottoms, John Baker, and Chuck Tingley. So there's some other folks here visiting the wall when we went by. But we'll stop here and see the panel on the corner, which I know Tony will get over to with his helmet cam, has William Gator, one of the founders of the Juneteenth Festival. And at this point, Mark, I'd like to start that documentary video, and maybe when we come out of it, we'll be able to get Deatra on the line. That's William Gator right there with the blue background. That one is by John Baker. Malcolm X by Idris Wajed. Each of the four artists takes turns, 7 panels each. And when we get to this documentary video, you'll see William Gator live and talking. So, Mark, can we kick to that, and I'll step out for a bit. And when we resume the ride, we will ride to the parkway named after William Gator on the east side, and I'll come back and we'll hear from Mother Eva Doyle, who's also on the Freedom Wall. And we'll catch up with some other folks as we continue working our way back to the Juneteenth headquarters. Mark, can you keep the ride footage on there too, please? No, together. Hands in side by side.
Juneteenth Festival Incorporated exists exclusively for charitable and educational purposes. Our mission is to actively preserve the broad spectrum of African American heritage and culture by engaging in educational and cultural activities which will benefit the community as a whole. The Juneteenth Festival in Buffalo was started in 1976 by the B.U.I.L.D, Build Unity, Independence, Liberty, and Dignity organization.
Yes. B.U.I.L.D was basically an activist organization, mainly trying to get our people jobs, which is very important, better education, better housing, and into businesses.
The B.U.I.L.D organization actually became a better teacher than we actually had in college. What they taught us was real. It wasn't theoretical. It was dealing with everyday life kinds of issues. So the B.U.I.L.D organization, I have to thank them for that, because what they did is they gave us the balance that you never got in school.
The activist group wanted a relevant alternative to the country's Bicentennial Celebration.
Every time you turned the television on, you saw something about the Bicentennial Celebration. And as an African American, I personally felt left out. I mean, I didn't feel that I had anything to be excited about the Bicentennial Celebration, what George Washington did, what Nathan Hale and all these old patriots did, because in my mind, all these guys supported slavery.
The B.U.I.L.D organization realized that July 4th meant very little to African American freedom. So they went looking for something that would represent African Americans and their move towards liberation.
Research unveiled an existing holiday, Juneteenth, a celebration of the ending of slavery celebrated June 19th and recognized as a state holiday in Texas and Oklahoma. B.U.I.L.D organizers decided to block off about 15 blocks of Jefferson Avenue, the then Main Street of Buffalo's African American community, for one weekend.
We were trying to be fruitful. We thought the celebration might also focus attention back on Jefferson Avenue and assist in reviving that area as a business district.
At that time, Jefferson Avenue was largely largest commercial area in the Black community. There were many stores, and it was like the main street. At one time, William Street in Buffalo was one of the main streets years ago. But Jefferson Avenue, where we could have the merchants in that area be able to involve themselves in this project, and as a result, try to have them benefit from this holiday and this effort.
We remembered the C&B Men's Shop.
Yes.
And I think the other one was called Red Carpet. It was a men's shop up on, and there was tailor shops. Everything that you could wear on your body, you could buy on Jefferson.
That's true.
And the message was, look, this was our major economic strip at one time. It would be nice to see that happen again, and if Juneteenth could make that happen, so be it. And we dedicated Juneteenth to that cause.
We, again, when I say we, I'm saying the Juneteenth Committee, not just B.U.I.L.D. B.U.I.L.D was just the umbrella organization to funnel things through.
Right.
Okay. We, again, knew that it was going to take a lot of work to get people to understand Juneteenth. I had comments to people when I approached them about Juneteenth. Oh, there's no such day. That's just a fictitious thing that you're trying to make up. No. And what Juneteenth meant was a celebration of slaves being freed in this country.
It was a major project. And for about 9 months before it happened, I think the organization turned all of its resources almost to making Juneteenth happen. We had several special committees for entertainment, for concessions, for the Malika contest, for sports, for youth, for seniors. We had several committees working in at the same time.
The publicity aspect of it, we wanted to do something that could put the history of it down and that you could have it for years to come, so that when people reflect back on it, especially people if you're like me, where your memory's not all that great, you can reflect back on it and see that. And that was this. And I did the first journal on the committee. We wanted to kind of provide the structure of the foundation for what it was we were trying to do. So it was going to be on Jefferson Avenue. And we knew at the time we wanted to show what the vision was for Jefferson. And the vision was quite different than what it was at the time. Jefferson was just hanging on in those days as a business district. And people were starting to leave Jefferson, to close the businesses, but there were never any for sale signs, which we found to be interesting. There was the people left, the businesses left, but they never sold the buildings. They just closed them up. So we started taking pictures of that, saying that we want, and we went into the other parts of town and said we want this, and not necessarily this part, which was basically a boarded up community.
The artists, the few artists that we had around, we had nothing more to do. There was nobody getting us to do murals, and especially that we could get paid for. So we decided that we would paint Jefferson, paint the murals on Jefferson. And it was not lost on Jefferson because it needed it at that time. We got ourselves together and painted those murals on those windows. And we got a lot of good art out of it. And as a result, when people saw it, we decided, why don't we invite other people to come out, not just the artists, because it's supposed to be about economics. And you don't have to be an artist to set up. And I was impressed that the next Saturday, we had people on every corner selling jewelry, things that they had made. Wow. And that was a good feeling.
Very happy to welcome everybody here to our first annual Juneteenth celebration in Buffalo and Western New York. Okay? Now the parade is on its way. I can hear the drums. I think I can hear the drums.
This is interesting because it was a lot of fun. Wanted to do something that would just something we could sell or just some memento. And also it was silk screening, something I hadn't done much. I learned it in school and I just came up with the idea. We made pennants and we made these little shirts. Some call it muscle shirts. And what's really something about it, these shirts were just $2. And people say, could you give me a break?
Yeah.
But I just really enjoyed it to see people wearing these. The boxers wore them, the runners wore them.
There was another Juneteenth t-shirt with the logo and the continents of Africa and the United States merging.
Right.
And we had so many of those shirts. I swear I must have, I literally wore those shirts throughout my childhood.
If you go back and look at those clips of Juneteenth, especially from 1976, you see those young people going up and down the street. They were so proud. This was us. It wasn't an Allentown festival, you know. It wasn't the Italian festival. Yeah, this was exactly for us, by us. And we paid for it. We didn't have to get any loans. We didn't have to get any grants from anywhere. It was one of the most beautiful things that I ever seen when we had that on Jefferson. And when we saw the clips from all of Jefferson, where we can see all of the black people up and down Jefferson and no arguing, no fighting, you know, we were buying from each other.
What I discovered is that there were a lot of people in Buffalo who felt the same way I did about the bicentennial. So when the Juneteenth thing came along, African American was happy to find something that they could identify with.
After a few years, the festival outgrew Jefferson Avenue and is now held in Martin Luther King Jr. Park.
When we moved, it was basically easy to recognize that the growth that we had would not contain, Jefferson would not be able to, take care of that. Tents and all those different things. And the number of people increased.
Now the largest free African American festival in Western New York. Juneteenth attracts more than 50,000 guests annually. Juneteenth Festival Incorporated is a member of the International Festival and Events Association. Juneteenth Festival Incorporated is a nonprofit 501c3 corporation established in 1985 and is an all-volunteer organization with no paid staff.
We needed to go to a corporation format because it allowed us to approach or appeal to people and funds that are not available to unincorporated groups. Also, by incorporating, you put some liability, you put some limits on the liability of people who are involved in putting on the events.
I thought one time if I resigned, it wouldn't be nobody to carry on Juneteenth. But I'm telling you, I have the greatest board, which I'm president emeritus. But this board that's carrying on Juneteenth is out of this world.
Claudia Sims was the first president of Juneteenth Festival. Claudia Sims really explained to us what Juneteenth, how important Juneteenth was to this community. We saw it in her actions, we saw it in her movement, we saw it in her body language, in her every day until her, even her latter period of her latter years. she was still active as far as Juneteenth and made sure that Juneteenth occurred. So um, that was a strong lady.
On November 25th, 1998, Marie Midland Bank donated a former bank building at 1517 Genesee Street, Buffalo, New York, to us to use as our headquarters. Since that day, Juneteenth Festival Incorporated found itself going in a new direction, one of expansion. Not only do we utilize our headquarters for Juneteenth meetings, storage of festival equipment and supplies, and office space, but various community groups such as the Buffalo Kwanzaa Committee and Crusaders Marching Unit have used the facility as a meeting place. For a while, a local church used the building on occasion for worship purposes. In 2012, Emoja drum and dance classes began on a weekly basis and continue sporadically during warm weather. We rent our hall to the general public for private parties, funeral repasts, and memorial services. Our board of directors varies from 12 to 19 members. The board of directors is a working board and each board member has specific duties. During and after the festival, board membership consists of committed members from the community, including an original B.U.I.L.D member, a festival founder, retired educators, and an internationally known artist and keeper of African culture and education. There are also about 20 committees that plan activities for the festival. Counting the people who work year-round and those who come out to volunteer for the festival, we have about 125 to 150 volunteers each year.
What happens is we have volunteers on the day of the festival, and sometimes we don't see them until that day of, and they'll show up. Then we have volunteers all through the year. Just remember, all board members are volunteers. All committee chairs are volunteers. All right, and the committee chairs, when they get together, they meet every once a month, and then as we get closer to Juneteenth, they might meet once or twice or even 3 times a month, depending on what the situation is. And also the board. Remember, we're all the volunteers, nobody gets a stipend or pay.
Our festival is always held on the teen weekend in June and is family oriented. We encourage adults to come out and bring their children to the festival rather than just send them. There is no admission charge for the festival. Our festival usually has an annual theme. Previous themes have been striving to keep our tradition and culture alive, the time of times, and celebration of freedom and unity in the community. In 2005, we adopted the African proverb, if we stand tall, it is because we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. Since 2011, our theme is breaking the invisible chain, implying that we are still chained to the repercussions of enslavement. Activities at the festival vary from year to year. Some activities are traditional and some are reoccurring depending on staffing and funding. Activities which have taken place in the past and will occur again are a job fair, drill team competition, sports competitions and demonstrations, plays, lectures, Boy Scout encampment, etc. Juneteenth standards are the parade, which has over 100 participating groups, entertainment on 2 stages by local artists, exhibits, children's activities, a health pavilion, which now includes a healing garden, free distribution of donated books, usually over 5,000 books annually, a heritage tent manned by volunteers from the Afro-American Historical Society, bus tours discussing the local Underground Railroad history and its sites, and of course, our vendors. At our festival, there are more than 150 vendors, which include about 25 food vendors. Our vendors sell ethnic wares, and some local businesses also set booths to advertise their products. However, our biggest group of vendors are those who provide information to the community. Community resource vendors provide voter registration, higher education information, and literature describing their services. There are also pre- and post-festival activities such as a 5K race and walk, which includes a children's fun run. Get on the Bus, local tour of little-known places of interest in the African American community, sponsored by the Tradition Keepers. Sankofa Days, Sankofa is a Ghanaian Adinkra term which means we must go back and reclaim our past so that we can move forward, so we can understand why and how we came to be who we are today. Sankofa Days are evening events held 7 days preceding the festival at various venues around the community. A post-festival activity is the Maafa Memorial Observance. Maafa is a Kiswahili term meaning terrible disaster, our Holocaust. During the Maafa Memorial Observance, discussions are held concerning the impact of our capture, Middle Passage torture, enslavement, and denial of human rights that we have experienced here in the United States and throughout the diaspora. Former Buffalonian Dr. Ma'at Lewis, an African American psychologist, has conducted healing rituals at Broderick Park, a site where escaped Africans fled to Canada. Drummers such as Daughters of Creative Sound, a drum and percussion ensemble, poets, and the drummers and dancers of Access to Africa have participated in our ceremony. In the past, Canadians of African descent have also participated. Flowers are placed in the Buffalo River as a part of our homage to our lost loved ones who have been tortured or died as part of our Ma'afa.
This is the first annual raising of the flag for the Juneteenth Festival. We are very pleased to do that to highlight to the entire community.
Since 2012, our African Liberation flag has been raised in the month of June in front of Buffalo's City Hall with a small ceremony. The flag is on display for the entire month of June.
All right, what a wonderful documentary that was with the history of the Juneteenth Festival. Now we're going to just cut it there because we're on. Let's bring the ride footage back up, please. And we are on William Gator Parkway now, which is, as we've been, you saw William Gator in that documentary, saw his likeness on the Freedom Wall. This is the street where we've stopped many times. In fact, it's great for massing up a crowd of thousands of bikes, but hopefully it will be known for bikes beyond that soon. It looks like Google's jumped the gun a little bit. If you look it up on Google Maps, it says like William Gator cycle track. That's what's been proposed for the future, but as you can see right now, that is certainly not the present. But this is a possible connection from the North Buffalo rails to trails down through the east side, and so there are proposals in the works for that. But you see all the room that there is on the right. This could be a wonderful cycle track. I don't know who got through to Google to say that it already is that way. But the last time we stopped there last fall, we heard from folks at the nearby community center that that have the designs, and they're doing the community outreach to make that happen. And we'll kick it out here. We'll stop when we get to the end of William Gator Parkway at East Delavan. And when we were there on our Juneteenth ride last year, we heard from Mother Eva Doyle. And I'm so glad to say that we have better video to follow. We have 2 videos from Mother Eva Doyle, again, who's also on the Freedom Wall. She met us here last year, and the only video that we have of it is the 3rd time. It was such a big pack that she gave her presentation 3 times, and we had her walk down this street so far that she kind of ran out of breath. So the only video we have is just a quick 1-minute explanation of why it's called William Gator Parkway. We will follow it with a video that's of Mother Eva Doyle that was made by the Juneteenth of Buffalo Festival for this year's virtual gathering that she, again, as she did here with us 2 weeks ago, reflects on the moment that we're in. Of course, as she is probably the preeminent historian in Buffalo, she relates it to history and her own personal history. And then she reads a poem that is relevant, but it's from 1895 about the mask. And when she finishes that poem, she'll guide us as we will resume the ride, and we'll have her kind of narrate along the ride, and we get to our next stop by by Delavan and Moselle. So let's show that those two videos back to back while we're still showing the ride here of Mother Eva Doyle, please.
To get their rights in a number of areas. He worked very hard for equality in education, equality in jobs and housing, and he wanted to get rid of segregation, and he assumed the head of the B.U.I.L.D organization, which was a civil rights movement. He led marches, he led protests, and a movement to make sure that African Americans can share in the equality of the United States. He also helped to start the Juneteenth Festival. If you want to know more, read my column, Ion History, in the Criterion newspaper, and you'll find out more. Right now, I'm a little bit tired.
This isn't the first time we've stood together in the face of adversity. Whether it's keeping our community healthy with food during COVID, building housing for future generations, or fighting injustice. United, we stand. Together, we cannot be defeated.
Hello, everyone. The protests and rallies that we have been seeing recently across the nation due to the tragic death of George Floyd, and protests that we have seen right here in our city of Buffalo, this is not the first time that African Americans have had to face prejudice, racism, discrimination. I remember as a child, my mother used to take us every summer when school was out at the end of the summer. She would take us to Alabama, where she was born and raised in a little town called Repton, Alabama. My father was also born in Alabama. And she would pack a huge trunk. And we would go down to the old train station. A lot of people know it now as the Central Terminal. In those days, and I was only about 10 years old, in those days, the train station would be bustling and full of people. We would take the train and we would go south. And even at the age of 10, once we crossed the Mason-Dixon line, I noticed that things were different. I remember seeing, at the age of 10, the signs that said, whites only, colored only. And we had the experience of confronting this when my mother would go to a restaurant and she would want to get something to eat for us. And I remember there was a white waitress. I can really close my eyes and see her now. And she would wait on everybody. We were the only blacks standing there at the time. And she would go back and forth. And finally, my mother said to her, I would like to buy something for my children. And she said, I'm sorry, you're not supposed to be standing here. You have to go around to the back. We don't serve colors here. And that was my first introduction. So whenever I see those signs, and as an educator and the textbooks, I would teach children about what happened during that time. And whenever I saw those signs in the textbooks, it brought back their memory. African Americans have had to face this time and time and time again in many different ways. And I know people from the South and would come more north in that great migration of African Americans leaving the South by the thousands. And one of the main reasons for that was to escape the racism, the prejudice, groups like the Ku Klux Klan to come up north to try to get a better life. So these situations are very real. And I think the deaths of Mr. George Floyd brought back those memories. And I think you see this outpouring, and even today, people are still upset. It's very painful for us, and a lot of people may not understand that from other different races, because I've heard people say, "Well, what is it? What do you want now? What is it?" But a real history, a real study of the history of this country, when it comes to race and prejudice, will reveal. And we can go all the way back to when our ancestors were first brought over here to this continent and how we were treated. And we have never really received any type of, I guess, I would say even an apology, not let alone reparations. So this is a real issue. And I think this whole situation that we're in today, it's just brought it to a head. I would like to end my presentation by recalling a very famous African American poet who in 1895 wrote a poem called We Wear the Mask. You know, we're all wearing masks these days. But if you go back and study the history of mask wearing, it will lead you all the way back to African American history. His name was Paul Laurence Dunbar. It's not a long poem, but I'd like to read it. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouths with myriad subtleties. Why would the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but oh great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh the day is vile beneath our feet and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask. I think the basic meaning of that poem, written in 1895, is that African Americans have suffered a lot of pain. And even in the days of enslavement, they would put on a face. They would put on a face. And they would pretend a lot. The slave masters would look at them and say, look at those darkies. They seem to be in, and I've heard this, some people say they didn't mind enslavement. They did mind enslavement, but they didn't always show their feelings, especially when they set out on the Underground Railroad. They had to do it in the cloak of darkness. They had to do it in secrecy, so they could not reveal their true feelings. So remember that poem. Look it up. Read it. Introduce it to your young people. 1895, We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar.
Thank you, Mother Eva Doyle. So glad always to gain some knowledge for her and her eye on history. And in particular, in this case, so thanks to Juneteenth Festival, after we had some choppy audio of her a couple weeks ago for going to her porch and getting some great sound for the festival. That was part of Juneteenth Festival, a virtual festival over the weekend. And we're joined here now by Maston District Councilman Ulysses Wingo. Thank you, Councilman Wingo, for joining us live.
Thank you.
We're seeing on a video here how we bumped into each other on this ride that we recorded Saturday morning. We are at Delavan and Moselle outside the community center. And explain to us what y'all had going on there.
Every month, we have our Maston District Stakeholders meeting. And due to the COVID pandemic, we've been unable to meet like we typically would, which would be in the building where we would serve all of the attendees a hot breakfast. It's not a continental breakfast. We serve them a hot breakfast. And with that breakfast, we would give them all kinds of information. We would share with them the latest initiatives, give them the information from the City of Buffalo administration as it relates to like the bulk trash days, any new programs that were available for folks to get repairs made to their homes. We'd share all of that information at those monthly stakeholders meetings, and those are hosted every second Saturday of every single month, except in June. We didn't do it in June because it was a Juneteenth celebration that weekend, so we would forego June. And then in the month of November, instead of having a Madison District Stakeholders breakfast meeting and breakfast, we'd have a Thanksgiving brunch, which of course we'd serve a massive Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, this is the kind of dinner that will put you to sleep. You know what I mean? So we always wanted to make sure that people were comfortable, make sure that we were accommodating, and always had a nice environment, ambiance, music's playing, and we're all eating and fellowshipping. And once all that's done, we'd have a couple presentations from a business with some new programs, or let's say a bank with some new products that will be beneficial to our constituency. Whatever the case is, we generally like to make sure that we disseminate that information right then and there. But on this particular day, it was the brainchild of my legislative assistant who works in our central staff office, Mr. Timothy J. Brown Sr. Of course, he said that because we can't have them being within close proximity to each other, let's do a drive-through breakfast. So, of course, I pushed back a little bit and I said, well, you know, our folks have been accustomed to sitting down, eating nice, warm, hot meals. But he said, but we still need to get the information out. People are still going to be out. And then we can also use this as an opportunity to elicit more support when we do come back together so that people do know that we're meeting here every month. So I thought that's a great idea. That's a great approach. That was very innovative. So we got our newsletters and we've got some donuts and coffee. We got some fresh bread from Wegmans. We have some water and juice that we shared with everyone, and we just gave those bags out along with face masks at that drive-through. We had to have about 75 to 100 people come through in that 2 hours. Of course, which our typical attendance is about 75 people who sit down in the center. So, but we had to have about at least 2/3 of the folks that came by were all new people who did not know about our stakeholders meeting, who just happened to be riding down Moselle. So this was a great opportunity for us to get that word out. And I really appreciate you all stopping by, chopping it up with us, you know, letting us know where you guys are going, how you guys are doing. And we are grateful for the invitation to share with you today on your Juneteenth Slow Roll.
Thank you. I'm grateful for the bread. I'm living off of it. So we're continuing the ride down Moselle, which is freshly paved.
That's right.
Moselle's
we just
in
got
good
that
shape.
paved last year, right? This year, I'm sorry.
And we're going to ride it down to the Juneteenth headquarters at Genesee and Moselle. So we'll. And so while we have you here, you know, we open the show with our repeated advocacy for Cariel Horn. And, you know, I want to make clear we normally just, we don't have, we usually don't turn the floor over to elected officials here on Slow Roll. This is an exceptional time. And so you have stepped out on this issue on behalf of Cariel Horn and the overall cause that she represents nationally. And we're going to end our live stream in time to turn attention to her appearance on CNN tonight. But so we read the basis of Cariel's law. Can you explain how you came to step before the city council and advocate for Cariel Horn? So
of course, I don't do things for political expediency. I've never done that, and that's probably why I probably stay accountable. Because I'm not trying to, you know, do things to be popular. It's not my thing. That's never been my thing. Quite honestly, I wish I could be a council member and no one knows who I am. I wish I could just do the work, not have to worry about all of the fame and all of the notoriety that comes along with it. I don't need all of that. But when Cariel's story was brought to my attention, you know, again, I always say, and I teach this in my business classes to my students, you know, there's a difference between managers and leaders. Managers do things right. Give a manager a task and they will do it and they will execute it flawlessly with fidelity. Okay, they will not compromise. They will ensure that the people working for them are in compliance and that there's no one complacent on their staff. And if so, they will reprimand them to get them into compliance. That's a manager. That's what a manager does. It's right. However, a leader does the right thing. Now, as a leader, you are going to stand up by yourself a lot of times. You're going to do things by yourself a lot of times that is not going to be popular. And I was in support of Carrie before it was popular. I didn't need to blast all over Facebook all of the things that we've done to show her that we support her. I'm not going to sit here on slow roll and tell everyone on the live feed what we've done. But do know that we do support Carrie. We do support the Buffalo Police Department's duty to intervene. However, there's another level to that, though, James, that we have to consider, and that is the officers that do intervene. And I've spoken to the mayor about this ad nauseum, actually, that the officers who do intervene need to be protected. The union cannot pick and choose who they want to defend when it's time to defend an officer. And I don't think that it's fair for Carrielle to have lost her pension only a matter of months away from having her pension with 20 years in because a situation went south. So I've spoken to Carrielle, and I've also, you know, given her some advice over the years, and even just recently regarding the national attention that she's receiving. Man, listen, I don't need any of it. I just want what's best for her. She did the right thing. You know what I mean? She was a leader. She stood up and she stood out. And, you know, I've been criticized, Seamus, because people have said, well, Wingo, you haven't said anything. I'm like, wait a minute. If you look back 4 years in 2016, you remember when I did the silent protest in council chambers back in 2016 and 2017. I facilitated meetings with every law enforcement top official in Western New York, including NFTA, the Buffalo Police, Amherst, Tonawanda, Kenmore. We brought them all together. Franchell Parker and I, through Open Buffalo, we facilitated a discussion and entitled it, "Can You Hear Me Now?" Because the death of Terrence Crutcher really rocked my world, you know, and that was back in 2016. And we've been penning letters to the Buffalo News asking our white allies to acknowledge our pain, because until the pain of the African-American man and woman is acknowledged, we can't really get any type of justice or movement, because no one's going to believe us. I have white friends right now who have said, Council Member Ulysses, Council Member Wingo, Pastor, Reverend, whatever you want to call me, I would have never believed this was happening to African Americans had this stuff not began being published through video footage on Facebook, through all these other social mediums. And unfortunately, there were no body cameras when Carrielle was working. You know what I mean? There were no cameras on cell phones when Carrielle was working. So there's only her word against their word against their word. And of course, with her being a Black female on the police department 20 years ago, she was still an anomaly. You know what I mean? Not that it could not have happened, but she was not the popular person, you know, because she was a Black female on the police department. And then, of course, she jumped on a white officer, of course, of whom which have held these positions for a very, 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 very long time. So there was a culture there, and she disrupted that culture by trying to stop an officer from abusing his power on another citizen. And she got the bad end of the deal. She got the bad end of that deal. And it's just unfortunate because through a series of decisions on both sides, and I'm not going to blame any one person, but through a series of decisions on both sides, she ultimately lost her pension and she lost her job, and she's no longer a police officer. But I think that we have a very unique opportunity right now in this climate right now, even as volatile as it may seem. We have an opportunity in this climate right now to make her whole. we have an opportunity right now to make another appeal to this Attorney General, Letitia James, which I personally know. And she's a very, very a real individual, but she's also a very fair individual as well. And she's not afraid to do what's right. You know what I mean? She's not afraid. She's a leader as well. She's not afraid to do what's right and do the right thing. So we're praying, we're hoping that this Attorney General sees that this case is something that is worth looking into again, and seeing the merits of her case and seeing the facts and the evidence that she deserves after 19 plus years, after 19.7 years, so to speak. She should receive her pension. But we do honor Carrie L. Horn for the work that she did do by saving a life. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. A man is alive because Carrie L. Horn intervened. And that's where I'll end there.
Thank you, Neil Mack.
Neil Mack Sr. I went to school, Neil Mack's son.
Is that right?
He was a few grades behind me, but I went to school with him. I went to school. Neil went to we went to the same school for a little while. Yeah.
2 degrees of separation in Buffalo.
That's right.
Well, thank you for explaining that. We're going to hold this shot here. Unfortunately, I had wanted to pause it a couple blocks up. Unfortunately, I guess we're having some problems with the full video where we eventually are going to ride all the way back. We're going to ride down Moselle to Genesee, and then the parade route, the Juneteenth parade route to MLK Park. But we're a little frozen on that. So before we let you go, I did want to freeze it a couple blocks up anyway, and honor Nairi Green. And this is, again, we're on Moselle. A couple blocks up is Moselle and Box, and where there's been work done between your office and the Common Council and Slow Roll and Go Bike is about traffic calming. And we remember Nairi Green, a 7-month-old child who was in a stroller, who her mother and her grandmother were on their way home. And because of the poor quality of the sidewalk, they had walked into the street. They were struck by a car, and 7-month-old Nairi Green died. And there was an outcry then. And I believe, actually, when we get to that point, I want to be fair here. This is not your district, I believe, at that point, right?
Right.
But nonetheless, there was an outcry with the Fillmore district there, and the mayor and Fillmore district replaced the sidewalk. Too late, of course. And so now here, 4 years later, there is more legislation coming from the Common Council about traffic calming. Can you, if only just a synopsis, we're going to be talking about this for a while, but can you catch us up on where we are on that?
We are already behind because of COVID-19 with a lot of the repairs and the infrastructure in the city of Buffalo. But you're absolutely right. That I did cry that day when I went out to the site where little baby Green passed away because the sidewalk was in such disrepair. And there's an entire issue around demolition of buildings in Buffalo, where these huge machines come in, they ride up on the curb, they break down the sandstone curbs, and then they break up the sidewalks, and then we have to repair the sidewalks. And that's why we don't have any curbs in the city of Buffalo now, and on the east side, because of all the demolitions that have transpired. But we are working diligently, and I'll tell you this, at least in the Maston district, when a constituent or a resident calls us and they put in a request for their sidewalks to be replaced, if it's not damaged by a tree, the city won't come out and replace it for free. The person at the house has to replace that sidewalk. But in my district, I let folks know, if you be patient, the sidewalk may be cracked. If they're walkable, give me a year, 2 years, and we will have that sidewalk replaced, because we can put that on our capital improvements budget and have that done. But we've been trying to, in Madison, we've been replacing sidewalks, I mean, off of Fillmore for the last 4 years, 5 years now. And you can see the difference in the sidewalk and the approach on the curbside, the aprons that we've been replacing. But the city of Buffalo, I want people to understand the infrastructure in the city of Buffalo is very old, first of all. Second of all, the traffic calming measures that are being put in place due to several different initiatives and different funding sources. And of course, we want speed bumps on a lot of these long streets to try to slow folks down. But there are traffic calming measures regarding bump outs that we've put out. We've put on stripes. We've decreased, if you didn't notice, we've decreased Fillmore from 2 lanes at MLK to 1 lane, something that I've really worked hard for. And we're trying to make sure that people drive slower down these residential streets, even the main arteries in the Madison district, to ensure it's safer for folks on bikes, because I ride my bike every morning. It's just that when I ride my bike, no one else is out. I'm out at 5 and 6 a.m. in the morning, so no one else is really out that early. But we've been doing everything we possibly can, including some of the permanent speed humps that we want installed. Engineering has already let us know that those cost a lot more, but I think that it's better for it to be permanent than for us down those temporary bumps have to be taken up down somewhere else. Now we have holes in our streets, which could cause potholes in the future. As far as street measures, Buffalo is becoming more walkable, and Buffalo is becoming a bicycle-friendly city. So if I've answered the question, I hope I did by pontificating on all of that regarding the infrastructure. The city of Buffalo is just a matter of how we get it done, how long it takes to get done. And this is going to be a project that we're not going to let down. Now that I'm an avid writer, I'm definitely going to be advocating for some traffic calming measures.
Well, thank you. And so we see how all these things intersect. And first of all, I give a shout out to Go Bike Buffalo for painting those bike lanes on on Fillmore and MLK, and then becoming permanent. But when this happened here on Moselle, there was a conversation that was, I hope, not as prevalent now, but it was certainly active then, about sidewalks, not bike lanes, and bike lanes being seen as a competition to sidewalk. You don't put in bike lanes when you still haven't fixed the sidewalks. And I think the more we work together, we're understanding each other, and that these things are all intertwined. And far be it from a good cycling advocate to ever advocate for a bike lane at the expense of a sidewalk. These things are all interrelated. And in this case, there's a sidewalk issue and there's a speeding issue on Moselle, and those things intersected and cost a child a life. And I don't remember if it came out actually that the person was speeding. We know the person lost control of their car, but we know that Moselle is a street that people drive too fast down. And so we're going to continue working with you on finding those ways that we can get coalitions of people together to understand how these issues intersect, and to make these changes and calm this traffic and make Buffalo more walkable and bikeable. And I appreciate your partnership on that, and we'll keep in touch.
Absolutely. I appreciate you for the invite, and thank you for the time that we've shared here, and also for stopping by the stakeholders, Madison District stakeholders drive through this past Saturday. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Much more to come. That's Madison District Councilman Ulysses Wingo. Keep in touch. Thanks again.
All right. Cubes later.
Peace. Now we're going to bring back, we'll start the video over again. Unfortunately, our video stopped there, but we'll bring it back to MLK Park where we started. Please, Mark. I'm going to bring on Dayatra Hassan from the Juneteenth of Buffalo Festival, and give some of that background that we wanted to. We had wanted to have Dayatra. Now we have you, Dayatra. Hello. Yes, I can. Thank goodness. So thank you for joining us and rolling with the glitches. So we'll have to start this video up again, but just for the sake of some better video to go along with your words, we'll start it from where we were first gathered in MLK Park. And we'll give Mark time to do that by just saying, well, actually, that where we left off with you on Slow Roll was when you welcomed us to Juneteenth headquarters on our Juneteenth Ride last year. For those who need the introduction, can you give us a little bit about what the state of the Juneteenth Festival, what y'all did over the weekend, and how you're carrying it over to continue the work year round?
Absolutely. Thanks, Seamus. So Juneteenth this year, if you don't already know, we presented Juneteenth online this year. So we connected with all the social media platforms, from YouTube to Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, Twitter. And we just took all the content, we created new content, we used old content, and we used some live content, and just tried to give people as close to a real life festival as possible, considering the circumstances, not really being safe to go into the park yet, like we normally do. We just thought we have to, the show must go on, right? We couldn't cancel the Juneteenth, not now. Hopefully not ever, but yeah, so that was a lot of work. It was different work, but it's really exciting to look forward, because we were always moving toward that Juneteenth 365. We have programming outside of the festival as well, at our headquarters and around the community as well. So moving to the online platforms has been really a benefit for us to really get that Juneteenth 365. Our history, our culture, our heritage is something that we should celebrate on a daily basis. You know, information is key. So that's what Juneteenth is here for. Provide the information, you know, and help us celebrate ourselves. You know, I think the Juneteenth is the one festival, especially in the city of Buffalo, and I would even, you know, around the world, where we gather all kinds of people, right? So being a descendant of African peoples in this country, having all different groups and all different walks come together for one festival for our shared liberation is a really, really powerful thing, especially right now. I think it was very much needed right now. So I hope everybody had a chance to check it out. The beauty is, if you missed it, you can go back and watch it. You could actually watch so much more than what we were even able to show. So we were able to archive a lot of stuff on these social media platforms. So we're super excited about providing a community, you know, ongoing entertainment, education, cultural and spiritual inspiration.
Beautiful, thank you. And there is so much. The documentary that we showed before, it was part of a 6-hour live stream on the Juneteenth of Buffalo Facebook page Saturday, and now I've spun off some other pages for the edutainment, the entertainment, and so there is just a treasure trove of content coming out of Juneteenth right now. Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. And I want to encourage people to wave your red, black, and green flag in solidarity. If you don't know, the African Liberation flag is flying in front of City Hall from June 1st. And every year we raise the flag for Juneteenth as well as for Kwanzaa. So it's a real powerful time. I think it's really interesting how we've had so many protests and things like that right downtown at Niagara Square under that flag. And that flag represents the unification of African peoples around the world. So I think it's really beautiful to have this like cry for liberation, not just from us, but from our allies, really beginning to open up and advocate for the right thing to be done.
Well, we did get to have a little bit of a parade on Juneteenth weekend with, since you mentioned that, right? Saturday was.
Yeah, we did.
We were, again, I mentioned it earlier, but we were honored to be asked by the Mother's March organizers to get out front of the march and offer them some some traffic support as they marched from Juneteenth headquarters right down here to MLK Park, and such moving testimonies. And so, you know, it wasn't quite the parade that was originally drawn up for the weekend, but it was powerful nonetheless.
It was absolutely powerful, and I think it's important because people are getting together under whatever cause or whatever common thread that they share. And I think it's beautiful that the mothers wanted to have their voices heard as well. And just, it's just so beautiful to see so many different groups of people just getting out there and having their voices heard and standing up for the right thing, you know?
Absolutely, and we have expressed that we will continue to offer that sort of support. And again, it was an honor.
For sure.
And so this is the beginning of the ride where we're leaving the park. So we're going to pause it here, and
Okay.
we're just about at the time where we conclude our ride, and we get to the after party portion. And so we have a little treat that we lined up for that. As you know, as a board member of the Juneteenth of Buffalo Festival, that Will Holton is a big part of the entertainment at Juneteenth.
Yes, yes, he is. Yes, yes. Love Will Holton. He's a longtime friend and an incredible musician. We're really proud to have him. I think Buffalo has some of the most talented musicians in the world. And now is our time. We're standing up and the world is watching.
That's right. And I couldn't agree with you more. And so Will has been still making music through this time. And so we have some footage called up. And so at this point, Deatra, we will say good night, farewell, keep in touch to you. Thank you for all you do and for welcoming Slow Roll into it. And we will have a third annual Juneteenth Ride next year, won't we? We don't know how.
It's not about the how. As long as we have the will, there's a way.
That's right. And you know what? Why don't we have you leave us by saying that one of the things where you left us last year is saying that Juneteenth continues year round. It's not just a weekend. It's not just a week. So how can people keep in touch and keep learning?
Absolutely. Stay plugged in with all of our social media platforms. It's Juneteenth Festival of Buffalo or Juneteenth of Buffalo Festival on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Any of those has all the links. So just plug in and see what we got going on. There's always something happening for our community at the Juneteenth of Buffalo.
Thank you so much, Deatra. And now rest up because you have had such a busy week. I appreciate you making time for us. Be well. Peace. Likewise. Let's bring in Will Holton now. Before we get to his music, we have him on with us live. Long time no see, brother. Good to see you, Will.
How
are
you? I'm great, man. I can't complain. Being creative in some times where it's challenging to do so, but we make it happen. Technology is a plus on during this particular time, you know?
Yes, and you have plus technology skills.
God is good, brother. God is good.
So Will, you've been a part of Juneteenth every year. I've known about it, and so what before we get to some footage from your live session from this past Friday, which was kind of unrelated, but it's great footage. We wanted to have be our after party tonight. We're going to go until 9 o'clock with your music, and we're going to encourage everyone. We normally go a little later, but we're going to end it at 9 to encourage everyone to go and watch Buffalo's own Carol Horn on CNN. So for now, just when you were reflecting on Juneteenth, you have been such a part of it. How do you reflect on celebrating Juneteenth this year?
You know, being on the entertainment committee for the past 5 years, working with Louise Clyburn, being able to meet so many different talented people from around the Western New York region, and to provide that platform because Juneteenth Buffalo is the largest in the country and the third largest in the world. It's to not see my talent on the stage playing for people who may not have the resources to come to a concert like mine, the Love Cadenza or Brian Freeman, or may not have the accessibility to go to any of the other places around, you know. It's kind of like something that makes you think, like, this is a moment to just slow down and just be thankful for just life, period, let alone entertainment. So I don't look at it as a step back. I look at it as a way that Juneteenth can now further 365 Juneteenth, and getting the technology side of things under a more of a developmental stage. You know, that's very important because we live in a society that's very instant, and sometimes people don't have the means of transportation. They don't have a bike, they don't have a car, they may not have money for a bus. Some of them can't walk. So to be able to now become more of a technology based platform or display that Juneteenth Buffalo, I think they're going in the right direction. I wasn't really involved this year. I wasn't called, so I really can't say about this year other than M&T. They did ask me to provide a video. Blair Troublefield and Dorothy, who are over the Juneteenth from M&T, to provide some video for their the virtual thing, and that's going to be I believe they're going to show it this weekend or something like that. So, like I said, I think it's a move in a forward direction for Juneteenth that they need to do. My thing with Juneteenth is we need to be a little bit more hip, a little bit more knowledgeable, and we need to be we just need to be more informational. And I think this is the time now. This is the time. So this is a perfect opportunity for them to step up, and it's a step in the right direction. That's basically that. To not see a lot of my friends and meet new friends, and to be looking at talent from Erie, Pennsylvania. We've looked at talent through the years from Erie, New York City. People hit us up all the time because it's the largest in the country, you know, and like I said, the third largest in the world. You know, it's like I said, it's kind of like it's kind of a blow, but I think this is now going to push technology to go forward. You know, they need to step up the technology, which they have. Yeah.
And so you've been not only, so I know you have a mind for this technology, do a lot of branding, marketing, video work. So you have been set up and continuing to make music. We're going to have some footage to play here of your most recent, the sesh, the Friday night.
Yeah.
So
can
you lead us into that with what's going on with that?
Yeah. You know, the sesh was created. I created it during a time where we don't have the outlets for music, let alone people don't have the intake. They can't take it in, you know. So to be able to provide such a healing format, music is like I said, I always say it in interviews, and this is near to my heart. Being a doctor, people come to my concerts, whether when you had me at Larkin, or whether I have myself at the Trout, or you have me at the Hearth, or being at Salvatore's, or wherever I play. People are coming in from a bad day, possibly, you know, having an argument with a husband or a wife. Something happened. They're coming out to get entertained, but it's also like a healing factor, you know. So that's why the sesh was created, to not stop. We can't stop, you know. And originally it was me playing with tracks in my living room, in my studio. I did that for a while, and then I called up Brandon Josie and Cal Palmer, my band, and we did the first one. It was just the three of us, and that was Good Friday, and that was just phenomenal. So then Cal said, "Hey man, let's call up Tony Payne. Tony Payne wants to play." So Tony Payne came aboard. He did one. DP came on. He did one. I asked DP back. He didn't really want to come back, and that's cool. People have their reasons. But then Tony was like, "Yeah, man, I'm down." So when you get a group of guys together who are really with your vision, you know, it's gonna go. So I then hit up Personas Audio Electronics. I was with them from 2010 to 2015 as an endorser artist with all their products. And I stepped away for almost 5 years. And then I hit up the senior vice president, Rick Knockby. He gave me a deal on some new gear, and we're still working on some gear. And so they're helping sponsor it. And Delaware Camera, anything I need from Delaware Camera, Mark Miller and Stephen Neff over at Delaware Camera, they hook me up. I mean, I've spent thousands of dollars with both companies, but they still hook it up, and they're pushing it for us. So we've grown from me doing my own thing to having like 30 to 25 to 40 viewers to sometimes up to 80 or 90. But then here's the thing, like last week we did the last week one, and it was like 1,200 views by 2.5 hours in. And so it's growing. It's really growing, and people are looking forward to it. I got an intern now, Zaima Habib. Well, her stage name is Zaima Beloved. She's amazing. I'm teaching her how to work the software, how to work the board. We got 3 camera angles popping. More camera angles are coming. And it's great, man. You know, it's like we're trying to give the at-home concert experience. And the biggest thing about it is the positive affirmation side. There's a book I would read from, and I would read scriptures from a book, whether it be about hope, whether it be about faith, forgiveness, challenges. It's called God's Words on Life. And I would read segments from that. It's like a biblical book, and it would encourage people, and I would get in inboxes, people loving it. And so that's it, you know, and it's just growing, and it's not going to stop. I have the second phase of this thing is me doing the interviews. So it's going to be like a TV show. Where I'll interview Seamus Gallivan from Slow Roll and say, hey, you know, being impactful, 3-minute interview, put that in the middle of the show, hop back into the music. And all this stuff will be podcasted on YouTube, and also have the 4K versions as well. And then that's basically it, man. It's just going to grow and grow and grow. It was near and dear to my heart, man. Can't stop. And being that I figure myself, Drea Denor, Nikki Hicks, Rod Bonner, we've all done lives. You know, Rod does his every Thursday, and I do mine on Saturdays. And it's all impactful, man, because people need it. Music is that atmosphere changer. It's a mind changer. You can take someone from being depressed to being happy, you know, and that, you know, that's what I hope we're doing. I think we are. I mean, I get inboxes from pastors and just people I just loved your sesh. The sesh was great. You know, and we're in HD with the audio and the video. So people are putting it on their Bluetooth, and they're turning their TV up. They're doing their housework, or they're jamming out, you know, they're dancing. And people tell me, yeah, we're dancing in the house.
Nice.
It's great, man.
So lead us in. So we're gonna play again. You know, that's kind of, I feel you on when we complete a slow roll ride. You know, normally we start at 6:30. We get back, we go round trip, and about 8 o'clock we're back where we started. We have an after party with music. So while we're doing this virtually, we wanted to keep that going. We've had different music every week. And so in keeping with Juneteenth and knowing what a presence you've had on Juneteenth, we called up the most recent edition of the sesh. And so before we play into that and let you go, it just leave us with just letting people know how can people keep up with you and this music.
Yeah, well, the sesh is every Saturday night on my Facebook page. Just type in Will Holton, 8 p.m. every Saturday night, 8 p.m. every Saturday night, 8 p.m. every Saturday night. And that's basically it. All I ask y'all is to just share it with your friends and just push it, push it, because the more that positive energy goes, we're just gonna even try harder and harder and harder. And I love meeting new people. Like, I've met so many new people. It's like I'm doing concerts. Like I get these interesting friend requests, but they're really people who have been supporters for a while, but now we've been able to connect. Because like I said, Seamus, and you know this, like, times are tough monetarily, the pockets are tight. So even if when people can't come to a Love Cadenza in February, now look, you're getting some free concerts every Saturday night. And the base is still growing, and there's always more people to meet. And, and I love that, man. It's a blessing. It's a blessing to be able to just meet new people, man, and just keeping it going, man. Music is something that can't be stopped. It's a universal language, and I love it, man. So Saturday nights, The Sesh, presented by yours truly, Will Holden, sponsored by Personas Audio Electronics and Delaware Camera. Yeah.
Beautiful. No, you're always going to keep it going. Always building. Will Holton, thanks for joining us here for a few minutes. We're going to turn it over to your live show. It's great to see you, brother. Keep in touch.
Thank you, brother. I will as well.
Peace. All right, let's go. Will Holton and Company live. We'll go for about 45 minutes till 9 o'clock.
Hanging out as we get ready to go into a bunch of numbers that's going to bring back some really old favorite songs of yesterday. And we appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. This is The Sesh, a special Friday night edition. And yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Make sure we got the reverb on, okay, Zion? Here we go. All right. now we got to take it to the streets. Be kind and be sweet to one another. headphones and the board down, the main board.
Knowing love the way I do, I can say for certain that it's true. There's a chance for me and you. I surely feel that the time is near. The picture in my mind is very clear. I say love has brought us near. I remember not too long ago, I was just a lonely person with a lonely heart. Yeah, yeah. I was hoping that could one day be a chance for me to get the love that I've been missing. Sometimes love takes a long time. Wait for love, and you're gonna get the chance to love. Wait for love, wait for love, oh my. chance of love you see. It's not a waste of time if you truly believe the impossible can be. So hold on tight if you think you're right. Nothing hurts as bad as when you see you gave up too easily. I remember spending all my time on a dream that kept me wishing that you could be mine. Yeah, I was hoping that you one day be a gentle for me to get that I've been missing. Takes a long time, and you're gonna get the chance to wait for love, and you that I've been missing. It takes a long time, and you're gonna get the wait for love, and you that I've been missing. Takes a long time, and you're gonna get the wait for love, and you that I've been missing. Takes a long time, and you're gonna get the wait for love, yeah. Yeah, Takes a long time, and you're gonna get the wait for love, and you that I've been missing. Takes a long time. You're gonna get the chance to love. Wait for love, and you. Yeah. It takes a long time, and you're gonna get the It takes a long time. You're gonna get the chance to love. Gonna love, wait for love. Oh my. Oh yeah.
All right. That end of that song snuck up on me. Will Holton in the sesh. Brandon Sherman Josie on keyboards. Cal Palmer on bass. Tony Payne on drums. That was a sesh. They called it the sesh Saturday night. A session that they're having on Will Holton's Facebook page. Now, we said we're going to end a little earlier this week because, and I'm going to read a little bit about that to explain why. Before I do, thanks everyone for tuning in to our second annual Juneteenth Ride. Thanks. Oh, okay, that's a good message I'm getting. If we have time to do that before 9 o'clock, Mark, we have about 9 minutes. How long is it, Mark? Great. Pardon me, everybody who's watching this in the present and future, because I'm talking to the producer, Mark, on the side here. But yes, he just gave me something great. We have time before we leave at 9 to play a video to help explain why we're leaving at 9 tonight, maybe a little earlier than we otherwise would have. So, Mark, are you able to play that now? Great, let's do it, and then I'll come back and say goodnight. Let's watch some of Carriel Horn.
All right, Carriel, thank you for your bravery yesterday in fighting that crowd. Tell me what was going through your head as you were walking through there and filming.
Well, the number one thing that's going on with me is Carriel's Law, because I understand the culture on the police departments, not just in Buffalo, but all across the country. And on the police department, the culture is you have to stick with the police officers and their rendition of whatever the story is. Me, I didn't choose to do that, and that's why I was ostracized. Ostracized even before I was fired, but that's another story. It'll be too much to say right now. But anyway, so I want to change that culture. And so when I got a call that they were having the Bad Cop Rally, and so I went down there, and I was like amazed at how many people were down there to support officers who pushed a 75-year-old man down. I was like really in amazement. And when we talk about racism and things on the department, there are some racist officers, but I mean, that's not the biggest issue. It's the good old boy system that's the big issue. And with the good old boy system, it basically is like just go along to get along. And that's not just in the police, that's in politics and everything. So that's a real big problem. But with police officers, you are taking people's rights away. You're taking people's lives away. You have a lot of power to destroy their lives. And I've been on the end. Of course, my life has been turned upside down. I'm not happy about it, but at least I kept telling myself, one thing they can't take is my sanity. One thing they can't take is how I think. And that's why I would never give in to pressure about doing something I knew and my heart was not right. So the point is, Carriel's Law will protect officers who do stand up against police brutality, and whoever fabricates a story, whoever retaliates against the officer within the department or anything, then they will be they will be here, Derek. They will be punished. I think it should be a felony because that's how serious it is. You know, you have people literally dying. If one person, one of those officers out of the 4 with George Floyd had stood up and pushed him over, stopped him from doing it, like for 8, almost 9 minutes, nobody did a thing. And then the people who were back, they're like, he can't breathe. Check his pulse. His nose is bleeding. Nothing. That's straight up murder. That should be murder 1 from the beginning, because you don't stay on somebody's neck that long and hear all the stuff that you're saying. What was going on in that officer's head? Oh, it's working? Oh yeah, let me stay a little longer, make sure. I couldn't stop crying. Like for like 2 days, I just was crying nonstop because I couldn't understand why one person didn't have heart to do that. And like I said, that's why Carriol's law would be important, because they could not. It wouldn't be an option for anyone to stand around and watch that.
Did you expect that kind of behavior when you walked into that crowd yesterday, and the name calling and the language that they
because
you?
when I started recording, right when I started recording, a guy had just said, "Are you lost?" And that's because I was trying to get the phone to start, but before I got it to start, he said that. So I don't think I got that. And then I said, "Am I lost?" So a lot of times I was trying to repeat what they said to me. And some of the things they were chanting, I don't even know what they said in the chant. But I just was like, I remembered I had a bullhorn in the car. I got it. And basically just gave them a message that a lot of them needed to hear. Because I remember when there was an officer that went to court, and the PBA, the union is a big part of the problem, told us to go and support that officer. I went to court, not really knowing what was going on. I mean, I knew he was being charged, but I thought they had good evidence to say this officer was innocent. But then once I saw how they manipulate and they lie on reports and stuff, that's when I realized, like, this is not what I want to be a part of.
Well, thank you for your bravery yesterday and your ongoing efforts to change things around here. We really appreciate it. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you, Mark, for playing that. That's our producer, Mark Odian, doing his work with WNYmedia.net, and that's Carriol Horn, who we are going to begin and end this show with. And we are ending it early because the 9 o'clock CNN show with Chris Cuomo is going to feature Carriol tonight. So with some closing words, while we have a couple minutes, I'm going to reflect on how some folks are uncomfortable with us bringing this up. What does this have to do with bikes? Well, Slow Roll is about connecting community. That is our mission. We connect communities by bike. We've been having Carriol as part of Slow Roll for years. And she's having her day nationally now. And I echoed what probably a lot of people have been thinking lately, and I spoke with her a few days ago saying, I'm sorry that we haven't done more over the years. We got your back now like never before. And she said, it's okay, you've been there for us going back years. And we had Carriol on when we needed a message to unite and to heal after the Charlottesville tragedy, and Carriol had a way with words that we handed her the bullhorn. And it makes people uncomfortable, the way in which we need to heal right now, the process of doing it. Some people don't want to talk about it. They want to brush it under. That's privilege. That's privilege that I have. But we've continued to say we refuse the privilege of avoiding politics with Slow Roll. We are a nonprofit, a 501c3 nonprofit. So we're not endorsing candidates, but we can endorse policy. And so we signed on to the coalition to support Carriol, and we'll continue to work beyond that, just putting our name on it. We'll stay on this. And we'll continue to connect communities by bike, because it's what's relevant in our community is how you connect community around issues, around people and places. And this is too urgent to ignore. We've been on it for years. We haven't always gone about it right, but we're here. And we're learning and we're connecting. That's how we build and how we grow. How we learn how to do it better is because we connect with more people and we learn. So next week, we'll go over to the Fruit Belt, our original plan to be at the African Heritage Food Co-op in the Fruit Belt on Carlton. And we'll do this again next Monday this way. We'll have more to come in the meantime about more virtual rides and more ways that we can gather people around the bikes, even though we can't do the big thing for now. But we love you all, and we appreciate y'all tuning in here in the present and the future. Big love to Independent Health for their support, helping us keep the wheels turning. Thanks to Mark Odie and WNYmedia.net. Peace out. Let's all go watch CNN. Good night.